Now, the weekend catch-up is titled this title for a very good reason. We like to catch up on what's been happening around Perth, both on the weekend and also in recent days. A story that I covered earlier this year was one of a West Australian man, Robert Hicken, who is the founder of GPNow. Now, when we spoke to Robert a few months ago, it was to raise funds and raise awareness for people in Ukraine during the war that just weren't getting the adequate medical and dental help that they actually needed. And he took to the airwaves on Radio 6PR. They were after medical professionals to be able to donate their time free of charge on a telehealth platform. As we all know, during COVID, telehealth consultations became very common. No substitute for actually being able to see a doctor, but you need to just work with what you've got at any one time. And they were also after people that could speak the Ukrainian language to be able to perhaps help with also interpreting and things like that. It was his philanthropic way of being able to give back because he is the founder of GPNow, and he's currently just returned to Perth from being over in Europe, and he's made massive inroads as well. He's helped more than 4,000 Ukrainians with free medical advice, comfort and care. One of the very amazing stories was a little Ukrainian girl who had life-threatening throat and neck cancer, whom they've been caring for since September. But as always, things cost a lot of money, and I'm delighted to say he's on the line now to join us because they need to raise some more money to be able to ensure that surgery can continue in a very difficult part of the world. Robert Hicken, founder of GPNow, joins me now on the line. Good afternoon, Robert.
Hi, Karalee. How are you?
I'm very well. I mean, look, it's been a whirlwind time, hasn't it? When you first launched this on Radio 6PR, that we had a massive flood of support for people wanting to help such an amazing initiative. For our listeners that may not have heard of this, just take us through what you've done in the last 6 months or so.
Yeah, well, we've certainly been busy since we spoke with you. I think it was back in April when we had aspirational goals for this crazy crackpot idea to try and help people halfway around the world using our telehealth platform, which we'd already used to help quadriplegics and paraplegics in Australia, Aboriginal health groups, and went with the bushfires as well down under, and also some Malaysians. It's very hard to explain, but over the last 6 months or so, we've been able to build a virtual clinic of predominantly Ukrainian medical professionals across many different specialities, including psychology, psychotherapy, neurology, and cardiology and pediatricians and so forth. It's an amazing team of about 62 medical professionals, including a veterinarian to help with pets. And yes, so far we've helped over 4,000 families in Ukraine, including the occupied territories, across Europe and even around the world. And it's been deeply moving. If anyone wants to check out the story, it's on www.gpnow.net. And yes, recently one of those 4,000 patients or families, which include some simple primary care stories of dermatology issues for young girls, and right through to deeply distressing issues for suicidal people needing support, discharged soldiers dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder, and even sexual assault victims, including young girls in Kherson who were abused terribly during this horrible conflict.
So, Robert, let me just ask you, I mean, we're all here sitting in Perth and also, country Western Australia and around there. Ukraine is a long way away. We still see the pictures on the nightly news. We still see what is actually going on. You've been there, you've seen it firsthand. Just explain. We know that we've got a lot of issues here in Perth, Western Australia, with hospitals and waiting lists and things like that. But when you're in a war zone, it's on a completely different level. We know that there are a lot of waiting lists here for people to be able to see medical professionals, psychologists, psychiatrists. But I'd like you to paint the picture a little bit for our listeners about what it is actually like over there. Like when you went there, as I said, you're doing terrific work in ensuring that you can provide the best medical care that you can at the time for these people. But so that we can actually identify and try and conceptualise this, explain it for us.
Yeah, well, apologies. I haven't actually been to Ukraine myself. When the program started, we have a team in Romania that developed the platform, and we were working with Amazon Web Services who've been backing the program. And we had a lady called Gina Trandafir, our country manager, who was visiting the Isachir border between Romania and Ukraine back when there were 90,000 people flooding across at the start of the conflict. From that, we were able to, through the refugees that we were meeting and handing out our GPNow cards to, Gina was doing, we were able to connect with a lady called Tanya Al-Hamad, who is a refugee and so is her husband. And she started to help us build the platform. She's Ukrainian. And then we got connected with Dr. Vadim Ilyashenko, who's the chief neurosurgeon at the Oberig Clinic in Kyiv. And through that, we were then able to bring on board Ukrainian doctors and medical professionals.
And also, you've got a lot of people from Perth that have actually also volunteered their time as well to help the people in need over there.
Very much so. We're a Perth-based company in West Perth. We've got our team here, Ron, Brett, Wayne, and many others have been putting their shoulder to the wheel to help us stand up the service and grow and keep it going. So it was very challenging. We've had to create 50 different platforms and go through technical due diligence to make sure the platform was ruggedized for a war zone and fit for purpose. It's been actually a global exercise. The young lady that we're trying to help, we have people in the US chipping in to take her to the Colorado Children's Hospital for treatment. Our core team is actually spread across Europe. We have Tanya in France, Katerina in Spain, Evgenia in Hungary, Tanya's in Germany, and we have a lot of our team are actually in Ukraine, in Kyiv, going through real time, apologizing for not making team calls because the air raid sirens are going off, the power is down, and they're in the freezing cold up on the 13th floor of a...
So, Robert, I was going to say, it's Sunday afternoon in Perth, you're still working away doing it, of course, with time differences. So perhaps people, if they're thinking of making a donation to a charity or a Christmas gift, as you said, they can go to gpnow.net. You're wanting to raise more than 40,000 Australian dollars to pay for various rounds of surgery at what's called the Tübingen Clinic in Germany to help a lot of children and people that are over there in Ukraine that aren't able to access and get the medical treatment that they need. As you said, it is in a war zone. I think it's a great feather in your cap. As you said, you're a Perth, West Australian company and you're doing amazing things over there. And I want to thank you very much for catching up with us this afternoon.
Yeah. God bless Karalee and belated birthday wishes.
Oh,
and
that's all right.
My nomination for the Christmas song is Little Drummer Boy with David Bowie and Bing Crosby.
Well, we will see what we can do later on in the show. I'll let you get back to it. Robert Hicken, founder of GPNow. That is excellent. So perhaps an idea for a Christmas gift if you want to do. Robert does amazing work. It's no easy feat. Any of us that have used Teams and telehealth consults, etc., imagine trying to do that across the world. He is a very humble man. He's got some amazing professionals behind them. He'd sent me a lot of update as to what they've managed to achieve, and I'm very proud of his work and certainly a very worthy cause.